Hello, everyone. Welcome on in. It's the finale of the first major of 2025. It's the men's singles of the Australian Open. Early, on Sunday morning. And we've been doing it for 2 weeks, and I still don't know what day of the week it is. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the content. If you have, please hit that subscribe button. Please hit that like. Ring that bell, because every time we drop any content here on the Betting Weekly Studios, you will be notified of it. Tennis, soccer, and all our weekly live shows. Did I just say joining me for the final time to preview what I think is going to be a good final over in Melbourne? It is our senior ATP Tour handicapper. It is Sean Calvert. Good morning to you on this Saturday, bright Saturday and nice Saturday morning.
Yeah, it's cold but nice and bright. I've had to, I've had to close the blinds because I do get the sun through at this exact moment. So I've had to close the blinds. It's quite a nice day, isn't it, here so far?
Yep. You love the sun. It's perfect. Sitting there.
I do love the sun.
You couldn't think what a better day in the morning. Perfect.
I don't want it directly in my eyes when I'm trying to talk about a tennis match. That would be a little bit difficult. But what's not to like? It's nice and sunny. Yeah, happy with that.
What's the weather going to be like for the final? Well, it's not really a night match, really. So it's not going to be too much of a bother, is it?
Well, they got lucky actually in a way, because it's going to be about it's only going to be about 24 degrees and sunny in the day. In the evening, it's going to be 22, so perfectly playable conditions. But the next day, Monday, it's supposed to be 38 in Melbourne. So they've missed the really, really hot weather. I mean, I know it would have been played at night, but if it's 38 in the day, it's still going to be pretty hot at night. So they missed out on that. So yeah, perfectly playable conditions for the final on Sunday. Yeah,
and we've got a good final. I think it's a very good final. I think it's a lot closer than these odds suggest. I'm interested to see what you think about this. I'm coming in from probably a little bit of a Alexander Zverev bet. I'm a little bit biased, but I think I'm coming into hope. If you don't know, we record these shows every 3 times a week. And back at the ATP Tour finals in November, I bet Alexander Zverev to win the Australian Open because he was playing so well. He went on to lose to Taylor Fritz the next match, but he was serving brilliant, and I thought he was a take-out player. He was 12-1. I give up hope on it, really, and then he got a very favourable draw, and he negotiated his way through to the draw very, very comfortable, and he had a bit of luck as well in the semi-final. Well, a lot of luck.
Yes.
With Novak Djokovic retiring in that semi-final. So he's fresh, and there is positives around him. Jannik Sinner, obviously, has been in scintillating form, but in the last 2 matches, there has been some quite concern about his health. He was tired. He was pulling up with cramps in a really easy win against Ben Shelton, and that's given me a little bit of hope. Before we go on to the breakdown of the match, let's have a look at the latest odds with Bet Rivers. Jannik Sinner here is -278 favourite to win his 3rd major and back-to-back Australian Opens. Alexander Zverev, probably the best player not to win a tennis major, is +225. Currently, not the best player ever, but on the current lists. Spread is 4.5, and the total here is 39.5. Have I got reason to be optimistic here, Sean? What do your stats tell you about this match, and what's your thoughts here?
I think you've got a reason to be optimistic if Sinner isn't fit. I mean, I think if Sinner's fully fit, then he wins, if all things being equal. But things aren't always equal, are they? They certainly haven't been equal this season so far. I mean, I can't think of too many matches where injury or illness or something of that nature hasn't taken a part. I mean, even played a part, should I say. The Ben Shelton match for Sinner, both of them had cramps, didn't they? Shelton certainly did. I don't recall Sinner doing, but I think he may have done.
Well, at the end of the match, he said he had cramps.
Was
and,
it? Right.
And it was quite interesting what Jim Courier said after the match. Jim Courier said after the match that Darren Cahill and the camp said to him, don't leave him on court for too long for the interview. Do it quick because he's cramping. That's what he said after the interview.
That's a strange thing to say. You shouldn't really be saying that, should you? If you're in the Alexander Zverev camp watching that, you're thinking, hello, he's only played 3 sets here. He shouldn't be cramping at 3 sets. It wasn't a particularly quick match. Let's just have a look at the stats of that match, actually, Shelton.
But Jim Courier did come on. Yeah, Jim Courier did come on to say after that when he got Jannik on the court, he turned around to Jannik and said, do you want me to keep your seat? He said, no, it's fine, no problem, go as long as you want. So he sort of played it down, but the camp didn't do it. And enjoying the final set, he was really struggling with it in the last 2 games. The last service game, he pulled up a couple of times with cramp. He definitely was really, and that gave me huge confidence because. Yeah, I thought the odds would be, my honest, to 100%, I was -$2 and +$2. So
I thought it'd be about -$2, roughly. Maybe about 2 to 5, maybe at best.
Yeah.
They still seem a bit skinny. That's what worried me. At the start of this tournament, I said Jannik Sinner, highly likely to win it, all things being equal, which I've said about as often as Ange Postecoglou has recently. I keep saying it all the time because things aren't equal, are they, with Jannik Sinner? He could have been beaten by Rune, not necessarily by Rune, but by his physical condition during the match against Holger Rune. Then there was all these rumours about before the Alex de Minaur match. People were saying that Sinner's camp had spoken to the tournament director, and there was rumours of him pulling out. I don't know whether you saw that. I guess he did. It was everywhere, wasn't it? And then he came in and he blitzed Alex de Minaur. Everything seemed fine. Then he played Shelton. He didn't look quite right, did he, against Shelton? So we're only going to find out after this tournament's finished. Win or lose, Jannik Sinner presumably at some point will say, well, I've been feeling ill for the last however many days or whatever. If there's something going on with Jannik Sinner, then Alexander Zverev's got a very good chance. If there isn't anything wrong with that Jannik Sinner and he's fine, then you would expect Sinner to win. I mean, from a Zverev point of view, he's come here, as you say, fresh. He'll be the first to admit that he normally plays too many 4-5 set matches, doesn't he, before the final. This time, just looking at his run here, it's been fabulous, hasn't it? Straight sets against Martinez, Fernley, Humbert, and Puy as well. Humbert got complicated when it probably shouldn't have done. What would worry me about him is that I don't think he's played his best tennis this tournament. He was struggling against Humbert until Humbert decided to do Humbert things and kind of let it go. Certainly struggling against Tommy Paul. There's a very strong argument for Tommy Paul should have won the first 3 sets of that match and therefore the match. Serve for the first set, serve for the second set, won the third set. Tommy Paul should be sitting there thinking, this should be me, particularly given that he would have had a virtual walkover against Novak Djokovic as it transpired in the last round. I can only preview this based on what I assume that the players are going to be fit. It's very different. If we're saying that Sinner's not fit, then it's a bit of a guesswork, isn't it? We don't know if he is or whether he isn't. So I can only really preview it based on statistics and the matchup and all that sort of stuff. Nothing's changed as far as Alexander Zverev's concerned about his fallibility, his weakness, if you like, against the elite players at majors that I talked about ahead of the Djokovic match. I'm still not convinced that he believes he can win these matches. We've seen it before. He should have won his first major final, the US Open. I think he was 2 sets up in that, wasn't he, against Dominic Thiem? Definitely should have won that. It could transpire that may be or may have been his best chance, because he's not going to get a Dominic Thiem. You wouldn't have thought, no disrespect to Dominic Thiem, but you would think that he's going to get the Alcarazes, the Sinners, and the up and coming guys as well in these finals over the next few years. What concerns me is that his mental, for me, a mental frailty in the big moments. The other thing that worries me is that passive style of play that he has, that he reverts to almost without realizing he's doing it. He did it against Novak Djokovic. They only played 1 set, but he was camped out miles behind the baseline, which is the standard Zverev thing that he kind of goes to in these big matches. It's almost as if he feels like his best chance is to wear the opponent out, which is kind of strange given the weapons that he has. Arguably the best serve on tour. Very, very solid backhand. That's probably his best shot. And when his forehand is firing, that can go a bit loopy, his forehand. But when it's firing and all those things are working, there's no reason for him to be as negative as he is. His passive style of play, if he plays like that, like he did against Djokovic in the first set, there's an argument there. You might think, well, he's trying to wear Djokovic out. He perhaps knows Djokovic is injured. He's trying to do that. Maybe that's what he was trying to do. But for me, he just does that automatically. And he should be if he does that against Jannik Sinner, Sinner's not going to give any ground from the baseline. Sinner does not give up that baseline easily. He's up on that baseline or slightly behind, attacking. Whereas Zverev is constantly behind the baseline, trying to soak things up. And if he does that, Zverev, I don't think he's going to win this match. But if he takes it to Jannik Sinner, then he's got a decent chance. If we look at their head-to-head, it's not.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, I'm taking optimism as Zverev backer from that head-to-head. I mean, you say that he can't beat him in majors. He's beaten him twice in the US Open, including one in the round of 16 and a five-setter.
What I said was in the very big matches, the big moments against the big players. I mean, like a final or late in a semi-final. I think when he beat Sinner, it was what, fourth round or something?
Round of 16, yeah.
Yeah, and the Sinner was number 13 seed then. He's not the player that he is now. The head-to-head is a little bit it's screwy because Sinner wasn't fit. Again, Sinner wasn't fit in either of those last two matches that they played. Against Cincinnati, he spent most of that match clutching his hip. Ended up winning it, Sinner, 7-6 in the third, but he certainly wasn't fully fit there. He was cramping. We're talking about cramping again. We talked about it a minute ago. He was certainly cramping in that US Open fourth round match, 2023. That was a ridiculous match. It went 5 sets. It was about 2:00 in the morning when that finished. But if we're taking the stats of that match, and for you this is a plus point, Zverev does lead 101-99 in terms of the service points won and return points won totals in those two meetings. There's not much point looking at meetings further back because they were a long time ago. Sinner's a very different player now, as is Zverev, you could argue. Just looking at those two meetings then, Sinner, he won more second serve points, 56% compared to 51%. But Zverev actually did better on the break points, 47% taken for Zverev compared to 38% for Sinner. So it's been a very, very tight couple of meetings on the hard courts. If we look at what they've done this Australian Open, service points won and return points won totals, both excellent. Sinner 116, Zverev 114. And just breaking those numbers down, Sinner's actually got better serving stats than Zverev has. 95% holds the serve, Sinner. 81% first serve points won. That's a decent way bigger than Zverev. So perhaps slightly surprising, but you've got to think about who they've played as well. That comes into account. So I'm not too kind of interested in those stats. It's worth mentioning them, but they're not overly relevant to this particular clash. He's got the bottom line with as far as Zverev is concerned. He's got to not play that reactive style that he plays. He's got to impose himself. If he comes in, impose himself. This is his third Grand Slam final now. Mm-hmm. I think it's not his first. He shouldn't be nervous, or he shouldn't be. It's not new to him. He's done this a couple of times now. He needs to come out there and impose himself with the weapons that he has. And if he does that, then he's got a chance. I think if you're backing Zverev, I might be tempted with a little interest in 3-2. Because if Sinner isn't fit, you would think Zverev, I would strongly suggest that Zverev would be the stronger player physically coming into the fifth set. I don't know about mentally, by the way, but physically, you would think if it goes 5, excuse me, that Zverev would be more likely to have the edge physically. 3-2 to him is, I think, he's 8.5 plus 750 with Bet Rivers. That could be of interest to me, perhaps more than the plus 225. Although, you could argue on the stats that's not a bad price actually. I've just looked at the other thing that, because I'm talking about Zverev and this problem that he has for me in the big moments. The ATP website, I've got this quite handy little statistics section which is called Under Pressure Leaders, whereby they have a little algorithm which calculates who the best players are under pressure over the last 52 weeks. Sinner's number 1, and Zverev's down at 19th, which tells a tale. Now, if you look, you can also isolate that in matches played against the top 10 players only. Sinner's number 11. Number 1 is Artur Fils, incidentally. Sinner is 11th in that score, and Zverev is 39th. He's only a couple of points ahead of Alejandro Davidovich-Fokina in terms of under pressure points against top 10 players. That's what worries me about Zverev. It's not, he's got the game, we know that. Has he got the mental fortitude to produce the big moments when he needs them? Like a Novak Djokovic or Alcaraz, you wouldn't see these guys kind of going into their shell a little bit in the big moments. They back themselves. They go for it. They might miss, but they'll go for it. Whereas Zverev, you feel like he's always waiting for someone else to make a mistake. and that I don't think that's going to be good enough unless Sinner isn't fit. So there's a few ways to bet this. That the one I like actually with Bet Rivers is the same bet that I had in the semi-finals, which was voided, which is over 208.5 minutes. I think it will go over that.
Well, if you look at the matches they've played on the head-to-heads, they've all been quite long matches. They have, some of them have gone in straight sets, but they've been tie breaks in those sets. But the most recent matches, the last major match was a 5-setter. The match in Cincinnati was 7-6, 5-7, 7-6. The match in Monte Carlo was 5-7, 6-3, 7-6. US Open was a straight sets, but 6-4, 4-4.
Yeah, that was 4 years ago. Yeah,
but they have been tight matches, and funny you should say that. I was going to mention just when you were speaking about it about the 3-2. I was doing Betting Weekly Live yesterday.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen Betting Weekly Live, it's available every day at 11 o'clock on the YouTube channel, where one of the team comes on talking about the action for that day. And we had a guy who made a quote in, and he said Zverev to win 3-2 because Sinner has never won a tennis match that's gone over 3 hours 50 minutes. It's the longest he's ever played on court where he's won. Any match that's gone over. I don't know how many matches he's ever
Probably
played.
Not that many.
Probably not that many, but if he has played 4 or he's played 3 or he's played 5, whatever, he's lost every single match he's played that's gone into the over 3 hours 50 minutes, which I found interesting, and I think
that's
from
basically what I was saying
totally,
about Zverev.
Yeah, I totally agree with you in terms of Zverev not having the mental mind games, but I do think that he's a different player now. I think he's learned a little bit. Every time I've seen him on court, he looks a little bit mature each time he plays. He looks as though he actually believes now that he can win something. And I do believe that him from his camp, there is a chance of this is like now or never. You've got if you want to win a major, this is your shot really, because you're not going to get many more shots now. The youngsters coming up, you said Fonseca coming through, Alcaraz is going to get better, Sinner's obviously going to get better. So that might help him. And I'm looking for positives, surely. I'm trying to look for positives. But I just think it all comes back to the price, personally. And I genuinely believe to 100%, this is -2 and $2. And if that is the case, then that would make, when you build in your percentage, you would make Zverev about plus 180 as far as I believe. So from a price percentage, I know it's all factored in terms of that he hasn't done it before. But I just put it this way. I'm not hedging. I'm not hedging. I'm very more likely to go in again on Zverev.
There's no point hedging at this price, is there? -278. You'll probably get a bigger price on Sinner in play than that, I would have thought.
But I wouldn't trust Zverev on that spread. I wouldn't trust. I would never play Zverev plus 4.5 because he could have a crazy set. But at plus 225 and in a 3-2 win team, I quite like that. But I think the bet that just screams on the page on those 3 main options there are the total over 39.5, and you've obviously gone deeper in that prop. So explain the prop. If you head across to the BetRivers website, currently now we're 24 hours away from the final, and there is almost 70 different markets available now on this final. So there'll be more added as the day goes on. I'm sure of that.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at that Cincinnati clash that was, I think last summer, wasn't it? Let me just have a look at my statistics here. Yeah, last summer of last year. Yeah, that was 187 minutes for 3 sets, and the line here is 208.5 for a best of 5 set match. So unless you think one of these guys is going to win it 3-0, which I can't see that happening really, unless Sinner comes out and plays, kind of like he did against Dimin, I know it's a very different matchup, but the level he plays his absolute A game. And he keeps it up for 3 sets. That's the only way that you feel like that's the only way that can sort of fail. I can't see Zverev winning this in straight sets unless there is something up with Sinner, physically or whatever. It doesn't seem likely, does it, 3-0 to either guy? So if we're saying there were 187 minutes for 3 sets, then surely 4 sets would be way over 208.5 minutes. I mean, Zverev played 81 minutes for 1 set against Djokovic. 81 minutes. And that's because he went for that very reactive, very passive style. You would expect these guys to play quite a lot of long rallies anyway. It's a night match. Zverev has said many times that he much, much prefers the night matches to the day matches. Sinner would probably prefer a night match only in the sense that it would be cooler. You would think he would prefer the quicker conditions of a day match. So you would expect a lot of long rallies. And if you don't think it's going to end in 3 sets, which I don't, then over 208.5 minutes looks looks like the bet to me. 1.9 minus 111.
I would say that we were slightly unlucky. We were very unlucky with the over 208.5 minutes because that was going all the way over in the Djokovic match.
Yeah, 81 minutes for one set.
Yeah,
even straight sets would have gone over 8, 16, 24. Yeah, even straight sets would have gone over 208.
Very unfortunate. But yeah, like I say, head across to the BetRivers website. Lots of different markets available on there. You have a look through your angles here. I like that play. I like the totals here. I just think Zverev's got a chance here, given what we see from the body language of Sinner in the last two matches.
I think it'll be interesting. With Zverev, he did have a chance, didn't he, at the French Open? Just looking back at it now, against Alcaraz. Where are all these stats? Yeah, and he lost the last. He was 2 sets to 1 up, wasn't he? He lost the last 2 sets 6-1, 6-2. That's what worries me about Zverev. If he's leading, you can almost feel him thinking, "Oh, I could win this," and then before you know it, it's gone. We'll see if you're right, and then if he's learned from that, and if he's suddenly, got that mental fortitude from wherever, then he's got a decent chance. Yeah, I'm still to be convinced about that.
He's also very reliant on the serve, isn't he? I know he's not on the stats of the tournament. It's surprising Sinner's the better on the serve, but
Sinner's very good serve now. Sinner's serve is excellent.
It's very just reliantly so heavy on the serve. If he serves well, he's got a chance. If his serve doesn't serve well, then I think he's probably he's so reliant on that weapon
he's pretty reliable. He doesn't tend to have any really bad serving days. Just looking at his stats now, I mean, 76% first service in against Djokovic. He dipped down to 68% against Tommy Paul, and he was in trouble in that match. But he's normally up around sort of 70% against Humbert, 71% Fernley, 73% Martinez, 72% Puig. So he's normally very, these days he's very consistent with that, and hardly any double faults these days as well. He used to be a double fault waiting to happen, didn't he? And he's kind of sorted that out a bit now. Very few double faults. I'm looking here, 1, 2, 3. Again, Tommy Paul was the worst match that he's played. That was a day match, I think. Yeah, it was. That wasn't a great serving day for him. So that brings in what you've just said. He was 68% first serve, only 7 aces and 5 double faults that day against Tommy Paul. And Tommy Paul could have won it in straight sets. Looking back, he'll probably think he should have won it in straight sets. So, yeah, you're right. He does need to serve well. He normally does. But if he has a day when he's only getting sort of 65% and there's a couple of little edgy double faults creeping in, then that's going to be a big problem for him. But a lot of what we're talking about now could be totally irrelevant. Sinner isn't fit.
Yeah, it's a bit of an unknown. You got Jannik Sinner, the number 1 seed, the best player, by far the best player in the world currently, heading in with a slight injury worry. You got Alexander Zverev, the man with all the potential, but hasn't got it between the eyes and the head sometimes in these big finals. So what's going to go? We'll see what's going to happen tomorrow with BetRivers. Remember, if you do bet with BetRivers, you'll be able to watch the final live on the website. You'll be able to cover everything, live stream it, and all the in-running as well. I think this will be a great in-running match. I think there'll be twists and turns. There'll be courtside antics, there'd be injury timeouts, there'd be everything going on in this match. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting. And it's going to be long. And when you want long matches, when you want in-play swings, you need long matches. And hopefully, for our sake, over 2.5 minutes covers 208
It'll definitely be over
2.5 minutes. 208.5 minutes covers on the length of the final. So that's been it for the Australian Open. Thank you very much for everybody watching, not only on the ATP Tour show, but also on the WTA show as well. The viewers have been fantastic over the week. We're back to earth with a bang on Sunday. We're looking at the 250 in Montpellier. Now, I know, Sean, deep down, that you're more excited about the 250 in Montpellier than you are in the Australian Open final. This is where it's your bread and butter. It's what you like.
I must admit there is an element of truth in that. There's been so many withdrawals, though, hasn't there, in Montpellier? There's been about 12 withdrawals. I don't know who's going to be left to play. I think Andrei Rublev's taken a late wild card, so I think he's the number 1 seed. I do normally like a 250. I've got a lot of stats about Montpellier, which we'll talk about tomorrow. But back to the bread and butter, the weekly grind, if you will, of the ATP Tour, that some players will call it.
I'm heading out on Wednesday to Montpellier for a couple of days to watch the tennis. And when I went to get my tickets, the tournament organizer said to me, "Can you bring your tennis racket?" That was how bad they needed. They thought they might need me to come and cover some of the players that have withdrawn. You'll be able to follow my adventures in Montpellier on the Instagram account at Because We Win, on our socials as well at Because We Win. And on Wednesday night, live from Montpellier, I'll be doing a betcast with myself and Steve Wiss. Steve Wiss will be in Yorkshire. I'll be in the south of France in Montpellier. And what we're doing, we're looking at the Champions League betcast. It's the final round of the Champions League, and we'll be doing a 2.5 hour special looking at the in-play, looking at the pre-match, looking at the team news, crucial team news, big movers, big night for Manchester City. They need to win to get into the knockout stages of the Champions League, and we'll have you covered here. But unfortunately, or fortunately, it's only available for newsletter subscribers only. So you need to subscribe to bettingweeklystudios.com to get the newsletter. You'll get it every Monday. We're winning picks on there. I gave Alexander Zverev on there after the first round as well, each way 8-1. So we've already collected on that. But the show will be exclusive, and there'll be more exclusive content across the upcoming months for newsletter subscribers only. So subscribe to that newsletter. Give us a follow here on the Instagram page and the social page, and make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. Sean, thank you very much for your time over the last couple of weeks. Hopefully we can end with a high. Hopefully it's a long match. And hopefully for my sake, Alexander Zverev gets the job done, because I need it. Because I need to buy some nice Chablis and a nice couple of bits of nice fillet steak when I'm down in the south of France next week.
I'm sure you can afford it.
That's it. We're ready. Weekly game bet match. Take care. We are back tomorrow, looking ahead to that 250 in Montpellier. Good luck with your bets.